Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ray Knows. This is very exciting. Some of those higher level things like the loss of a loved one or relationship breakups, we tend to lean on the dog a lot, right? So now we already have the companion piece. We want somebody to be there and love and care all the time, and then we put that relationship on them as well. So now they become the boyfriend, or the girlfriend or whatever. So adding those different pressures on a dog, and that could be a lot for a dog. And the dog could finally decide after all those pressures. You could have had this dog for 3 years and things are fine, and then those pressures build up. One of the reasons for that is the dog doesn't have an outlet to relieve those pressures daily, right? So the dog doesn't have an outlet to relieve those pressures daily. And one of the basic ways to do that, the walk. I talk about this, I think, on my last episode, the power of the walk. That's a big way to help relieve some pressures. Also, structure. Structure will help relieve pressure. Give you an example of structure. So if you have a dog that is always attached to you as soon as you enter the house, every time you come into the house, and you spend 100% of your time with that dog attached to you, and there's no separation, meaning you're not given the separation or telling the dog that it's time to separate, right? Then that could be an added pressure. The dog is feeling leaned on a lot, and that builds up, right? So you can add structure to that dog's life by saying, hey, listen, right now I'm going to give you 30 minutes. I'm going to give you an hour. And you separate yourself from that dog in the midst of your home or wherever you're at. That's powerful. Those small things of structure and rules help to relieve pressures from your dog. The other way that you can relieve pressures from your dog is being an advocate for your dog. So you can advocate for your dog. That's another way to relieve pressures. You can also relieve pressure by training with your dog. Training, a formal training session, 10-15 minutes, will help your dog get disciplined, right? And you're doing that daily. You're also relieving those pressures of you leaning on the dog. So if you are in one of those cases, like most of us are, we want a dog that's a companion, that type of thing, or if you have a special case where you tried to fill the void, right, through your dog, then you're gonna, in order for this dog not to push back or bite back, you're gonna have to relieve those pressures. I've run into a lot of people that have been bitten by their dog, that their dog has bitten other people, and a lot of it is because they have too much pressure from leaning. The dog has too much pressure from the human leaning on the dog so much, leaning on it for everything, right? So if you're going to lean on the dog, you're going to have to relieve some of those pressures from the dog, right? And I just talked about a couple ways that you can do that. Training, again, is another way. You can also have somebody else care for the dog as well. Maybe you're taking them to another place where they're getting some structure and they're caring for the dog. That will also help the dog to relieve some pressures. The place command, I talk about this a lot in my training program. The place command is a big one to help relieve the dog's pressures. Because what happens, right? You heard the saying, pressure busts pipes, right? Pressure will make a dog explode and bite. You may get a dog that bites another dog, a dog that bites another human, a dog that bites you, a dog that does a lot of different things because the pressure has built up so much. So can leaning on your dog cause your dog to push or bite back? Absolutely. But you can help your dog by relieving some of those pressures from it daily, right? because I know it's got to be a balance. You got to have a balance with it. So if you can add in that balance with some good structure and training, you'll be able to take your dog, right, that pressure out of it so your dog doesn't explode. All right, guys, this is Ray Knows. And what I do know is if you lean on your dog too much, it will explode, right? It will push back. It will bite. So take a minute to think about how you can relieve some of those pressures. Take some of those tips. You can look at a few of my videos on my social media outlet on how I help to dogs to relieve pressure, right, and feel more comfortable in their space. So you can find me on all social media outlets at Follow My Lead K9. This is Ray, your dog trainer with Follow My Lead, and I will talk to you soon. I appreciate you, and thanks for joining.